do love being here and seeing all these happy, smiling faces, and that's one thing that we advertise for South Carolina, beautiful places, smiling faces, and it really is true. Peggy's joining me. Some of you know my wife, Peggy McAbee. She's a native of Spartanburg. We were married in First Baptist Church by Dr. Alistair Walker. It's holding pretty good. We recently celebrated our 41st wedding anniversary. 41st. I was talking to a friend and said, well, Peggy and I just had our 41st wedding anniversary. He said, that's nothing. Wife and I just had our 58th wedding anniversary. I said, that's good. He said, now I know the secret to a long, happy marriage. I said, what is the secret to a long, happy marriage? He says, every week, my wife and I, we find a nice, quiet little restaurant, and we go out for dinner every week. I go on Tuesday, she goes on Thursday. Peggy will be up there later. Those of you interested in the dog, Mac, the little Mac Bulldog, 3 years old, he's a real charmer at our house. And if you ever get in town, we like people to come by and visit the mansion and visit the State House. So I'd urge you to do that. We have tours, but if you have a few minutes and you need to come by, just let us know. We'll try to work it out. I'm glad to see Carol McKee made it all the way up here. I see Carol in Columbia. I see Judge Keith Kelly. I've known Keith a long time. Here's my new in-law here. Rob Rain married my niece. So glad to see familiar faces, and maybe some more here. I can't see without putting my glasses on, but I am happy to be here. I tell you, the main thing that I want to, do y'all want to hear about the coronavirus before? Is that on anybody's mind? No? Yes. Well, the main thing to do is to understand that the state of South Carolina in all its capacities, the health authorities and everything in between, are on high alert. And Team South Carolina, we call it that. It is a strong team. And unlike some other states, we're threatened by hurricanes, it seems like every year, just about, not quite. So we've had great experience in coordinating, communicating, and collaborating with each other over the years. So we've got a great head start on a lot of these other places because everybody already knows everybody. In fact, some folks joke that say in South Carolina, most people related. And if you go back in your genealogical chart, you probably say that's true. Lindsey Graham makes the joke. He says when he was a young lawyer up in Oconee County, a lot of country-type people would come in and they'd ask often the same type of question, different words, but they'd ask, they say, Lawyer Graham, if we married in South Carolina and divorced in Georgia, are we still cousins? But we do know everybody knows everybody. That gives us the ability to turn on a dime. And that is important not only in social things, but also in business things. And one reason is South Carolina is right at the top of everybody's list for economic growth and development, and that translates out into prosperity and happiness. But what I want to tell you about the virus, again, the main thing to do is, this is the standard operating procedure. The virus is just, it looks and acts just like the flu or a cold. If you think you're sick, you go home. That's easy. And always, because of these viruses, this one in particular, when you sneeze or cough, they call them droplets. They come out and they land on your hand, or land on the surface, or if you cover your mouth with your hand, and then you put your hand on something like this, and somebody could come along and put their hand on it and pick it up if they touch their face or their eyes or mouth. But as long as you're washing your hands, it's just regular water, can be hot, warm, cold, but soap. Soap breaks down the bubble, the skin on this virus, and kills it just like that. So all the health authorities are telling everyone to wash your hands throughout the day. And if you're sick, go home. If somebody's coughing or sneezing, now a lot of us have allergies, that doesn't count. If some onset of something that you usually don't have, then that's a sign you may have the flu. And we always have the flu. We have a lot of people die of the flu every year. This is nowhere close to that. I think it's 9 people have been tested, and we've had 2 confirmations. I think it's still just 2. One in Spartanburg, and not in Spartanburg, one in Charleston, and one in Canada. But if you think you're sick, go home, call the doctor. Now the good news is We have something, MUSC, Medical University of South Carolina, just earlier this week, or was it on Saturday? It's on Saturday, they announced something that they're doing that we have that I don't think anybody else has. And that is, if you go online, you can go to musc.care, and they have a system set up there where you can go through prompts. You need to put in your email address and that sort of thing. But they have people, they have been doing this for regular health care questions for a number of months now. And it's, they have doctors and nurses on staff 24 hours a day that answer the questions. They've been doing that. Well, they have now added this coronavirus to their repertoire. And if you have any questions, you call. And what they'll do, and what your regular physician will do, if you think you have something, and you have the flu, or you don't know what it is, and you speak to your doctor or nurse or whoever you're speaking to, they'll typically ask a number of questions. Have you been to China, for example, would be one, or have you been around anyone who's been traveling around the world, those sorts of things. And they'll ask about the symptoms, and they can rule out if it's the flu, they'll rule you in or out of the flu or cold and other things. But if it looks like you may have a coronavirus serious question, then the arrangements can be made with your doctor, a healthcare provider. They can take a swab, they send it into DHEC, and just recently LabCorp and Quest Diagnostics have been authorized to do those tests to determine if you presumptively have the virus, and if so, they send that up to the Centers for Disease Control, and they make the final decision. That's why we've had two so far. So the main thing to remember is this is a standard operating procedure. Cover your mouth, cover your nose, stay away from those who are coughing and sneezing, and wash your hands throughout the day. If you get sick, go home, go to bed, and if you feel real bad, call the doctor. Everybody's alert to what to do. So the main thing to do is don't overreact, don't panic, don't isolate, think yourself unnecessarily. And we ought to make it through all fine. Now that's as of today. Anything can happen tomorrow. But the health team, the whole network for public safety is highly activated and alert, and we just had a meeting with legislative leaders this morning trying to keep everyone informed. So that's the story on that. Now back to South Carolina now, economic growth. We are really outpacing the competition. And that's interesting because the real competition in the United States today is right here in the southern states. You look around, you see the weather reports up north. It's too cold in a lot of those places up there. I was watching in Minnesota a few months ago, and it was about 63 degrees in Columbia. I think it was 23 below or something like that in Minnesota. And I thought, who's going up there? Nobody's going up there. People are coming from up there. And out west, they're mighty different out there. California, they're pretty different. Sometimes they do things we don't understand. A lot of people, in fact, Carol, a realtor, told me the other day that he'd sold 30 houses in the last however many weeks or months, and 29 of them were from California. One was a local buyer. So people are coming here. The great Midwest is the great Midwest, just the flyover part. There's just, frankly, it doesn't seem to be a lot going on out there. It's so big and so spacious. So that means where people going? They're coming to South Carolina. They're coming to the South. And we're in the most ferocious competition economically now that we've ever been in, we believe. So that means we got to stay ahead of Georgia, we got to stay ahead of North Carolina, Tennessee, Alabama, Mississippi, a little bit of Virginia, parts of Florida. That's where the real competition is. That's where everybody's coming. I've seen figures, maybe you have too, in Spartanburg and Greenville, 43 or 44 people a day moving into that area. Charleston, as you say, 45 or so people a day. These are permanent residents. Nobody's leaving. Everybody's coming. And the businesses are choosing South Carolina. And there are a number of reasons. Number one, we are in paradise. All you have to do, if you have forgotten, get in an airplane or something, get up high and look around, and you will see that we are living in paradise. And that is what all the explorers and all of them were saying when they were coming over to the New World and then going back to their sovereigns. They were saying this place that today we call South Carolina is the most promising, the most abundant, the most lush, the most beautiful place in the entire New World. And they were right. You take that, and what makes the people of South Carolina so different is because these business leaders I speak to from around the world all say the same thing, all of them, different languages. But you from Japan and Korea and all over Europe, particularly Germany, I think we have 180 Japanese companies. I don't know how many German companies, but all of them want to invest in South Carolina. And I asked them, why? What is it about South Carolina that really excites you? Why are you willing to invest hundreds of millions or billions of dollars in some place? Why are you doing that? Why are you coming here? And they mention the weather, they mention the sun, they mention the great research universities, of which we have 3 that cooperate with each other, MUSC, Carolina, and Clemson. The 4-year schools cooperate with each other. They cooperate with the technical college system, which is the best in the whole world. All of them say that. We started ours in 1960-something. Fritz Hollings was governor. There was a business leader named Stan Smith, O. Stanley Smith in Columbia. And Governor Hollings asked him to come up with the plan. They came up with the plan. There were others involved. We have 16 technical colleges. And you have a terrific one here, the community college. They have in Greenville, same thing. Henry Giles, I think, is getting ready to retire. Keith Miller, Dr. Miller over in Greenville has invented a 4-year degree in applied manufacturing. We learned that the 2-year associate degree from the technical college would not open the door to advancement in management in some of these big manufacturing companies. So we answered the question with an answer. That is, we have a 4-year applied degree, so they can go right there for 4 years and go right, doing exactly what they want to do, not taking the French and history and some of the things that we enjoy, but maybe everybody doesn't like that. But that's where the real jobs are. We're about 70,000 people short right now. This is the first time in our history that we've had those many good jobs looking for people and not the other way around. So these business leaders look and they see all of those assets. They see the best port on the East Coast. We're going to 52 feet at low tide, which means we'll be able to bring boats in, 20 ships, 24 hours a day at high or low tide, 52 feet deep at low tide. And those boats are huge. It's hard to believe, but the ones that are coming in and out of there right now are carrying 13,000 of those container units that you see. And the big ones, now that the Panama Canal has been expanded a few years ago, those ships can carry up to 23,000 TEUs, they call it. Those are those container units that you see on the trucks going up and down the road and on the trains. But what do we have other than that port? And by the way, the turnaround time in our port of Charleston, getting something on or off the boat is, I think, is 26 minutes. In Long Beach, California, is 2.5 hours, something like that. And we've got the lowest union participation in the country because people don't feel they need to join unions and we have a right to work law. But we also have 2 inland ports. One is in Greer, the other is in Dillon. No state in the country has got that. And the volume at our ports are fantastic. The port in Greer is on the Norfolk Southern Rail line. It runs from the port of Charleston. They can take one of those containers off, put it on the rail line, and ship it overnight to Greer, where it can be unloaded, and then a truck can pick it up and carry it either way on I-85. Same thing in reverse. And just 2 years ago, we opened one in Dillon County, and that's on I-95. No other state has got that. And they tell me that land around the port in Dillon went from $200 an acre to $2,500 almost overnight when the port opened up. But that's, how do you spell port? M-O-N-E-Y. That's how you spell port. And because we have that port, you add that to all these other advantages we have, and that's why they come to South Carolina. But I always ask them, what is the main reason? And they say, that's easy. The people, the people, the people. It's always the people. They say South Carolina is a handshake state. They say what that means is when somebody in South Carolina gives you their word, you keep it. You don't have to write it down. They'll keep it. And I've heard stories since I've been telling those stories. I've had people tell me about, for example, over in Florence, there was the president of the building loan, one of his friends came in and wanted, this was several years ago, wanted to borrow some money to put up a new building, a renovated building. And they talked about it, said, okay, we'll do it. I don't know, several $1 million, I don't know how much it was. And so later on, they had the groundbreaking or the ribbon cutting or whatever. and everybody was there. And as everyone was leaving after the celebration, the banker said to the business owner, he said, "When you get some time, Charlie, come on by the office. We need to sign the papers for all that money. I need you to open this thing up." Well, that's one example. But the point is, they see the people. They say the people of South Carolina are loyal, strong, smart, and they'll do what they said they're going to do. Y'all remember, some of you, Mark Clark, 4-star general from World War II, later president of Citadel. He said, he told all those students, he said, South Carolina has got more patriotism per square inch than any place in the world. And that's a good thing, because patriotism translates out into loyalty, translates into dependability, translates into doing what you say, and that is about all you can ask of anybody. So what's our job? What do I see that we must do? We have got to stay ahead of the competition as we are now. Every now and then Georgia gets ahead of us on something. North Carolina gets ahead. Each of them got twice as big as we are. They've lowered their taxes, their income taxes. We need to lower ours. Trying to get the legislature to do that. We're making progress, but they haven't committed to it yet. But we also have to get rid of the regulations. You've seen what's happened with President Trump with reducing the income tax and eliminating a lot of regulations. Has had a big impact. Things have grown. The businesses are growing. But the other things we need to do, and probably the main one, centers on education. Business and education are inextricably connected. You can't have one without the other. If you don't have strong families at home, then you're going to have children growing up that are going to be in trouble. So how do you have strong? Well, you have to have somebody in that household that's got a job, preferably one they like, but at least one where they can make money and take care of their family. So how do you do that? Well, in the kind of economy that we have here, it takes some brain power to do this. The days of tobacco and textiles are not here anymore. It's all about brain power. That's why these research universities and the technical colleges and everything else is so important. We went to the new president of USC, General Bob Castlin, had a conference in Columbia last week on setting up a cyber institute. We had the Cyber Institute people from West Point there, General, 4-star General, retired Hernandez, I believe his name was. That's something that's coming. That takes brain power. That's cyber. That's everything involving the internet, computers, all of that. And you know how we all depend on data and all those things in business. Well, that's what that's all about, as well as the interference and the attacks that could come. The Army has their National Cyber Defense Center is in Fort Gordon, Georgia. That's just across the river. Well, those boundaries don't even exist anymore in business. We work in things in Charlotte, we work in Georgia, but they told us that there's not enough academic power in the area in Georgia in order to accommodate that cyber command center. So what are we doing? The University of South Carolina is all over that as well. In Columbia, South Carolina, on the corner of Assembly and Blossom Street, there's something that doesn't exist anywhere in the world as far as we know. And that is a collaboration, communication, and cooperation going on among in one building on the corner. You can look at it. It's got the IBM sign. That is the National Data Analytics Headquarters for IBM. Also in the building is a robot company from Japan named Saskawa. Also is software that has been sent there by Siemens. I think it's $620 million worth of software. And I'm leaving out Samsung. Samsung is in there as well. Researchers, candidates for degrees, PhDs, experienced people, young people with big ideas working right in there, collaborating together, and it's just like magic. The same thing is happening up at Clemson at the Advanced Manufacturing Center, where BMW, by the way, produces a new automobile. That's their biggest plant in the whole world, their biggest manufacturing plant. They produce a new automobile about one a minute rolling off the assembly line just outside of town here. Isn't that remarkable? That's the biggest plant in the world. But up in Clemson, at the Advanced Manufacturing Center, BMW sends over vehicles in different state of construction. And what do they do there? They have undergraduates, they have technical college students, they have PhD candidates, master's candidates, PhDs, and researchers from the university and from BMW, all working together, collaborating, communicating, and cooperating to find better ways, new things to do to change the powertrain, to change the electrical system, to improve this, to improve that, all this artificial intelligence, all of that stuff is going on right here. So is it any wonder that these big businesses that could go anywhere in the world want to come here? Is it any wonder that a business is already here is looking to expand? There is no better place in the whole world, is my belief, for them to do this. But what we have to do, we got to educate these children. And that's why I've asked the legislature we have a program now where if the Medicaid eligible, that is the low income people in most of the districts, can go to have their 4K, have their kindergarten, 4-year kindergarten paid for. I've asked the legislature, and I think they're going to do it, to provide that in every district for every child that's at that lower income level, not just some of the districts, but all of them. And also, where that child, the parents can decide they want to go to the public institution, the public school for 4K, or they go to a private one, or a church one, or parochial, or whatever it is, private, non-profit, profit doesn't make any difference. They pick it, and the state will send the money to that child to go wherever that child wants to go. Some of you may have seen President Trump in the State of the Union address when he recognized the mama and the daughter up there that were having trouble in school, and he said somebody has provided a scholarship for that little girl. Some of you may remember that, remember the joy on their faces. That's what we want to see all over the state of South Carolina. So that's what we're doing. And teachers, any teachers in the room, we got to have the very best teachers. In order to keep this momentum that we have and to stay ahead of everybody, we've got to educate these children. That means we've got to have good teachers. We're doing fine up at the upper levels, but we got to get them to the upper levels, got to get them into that current. So what I've asked the legislature, I asked them last year to raise the teacher pay $2,000. They did it. Asked them this year to raise it $3,000 for every teacher across the board. Now, will that be effective? I believe it will be. We found out that most of the teachers quit after the first 5 years. They just can't make it. The money's not enough. When we announced we were going to do this, we had 2 teachers there. They told similar stories. One of them said this, said that we had to, my husband and I wanted to go to graduate school, and we wanted to buy a house. We can do one or the other, but we can't do both. She said, if we get this $3,000 raise, that both teachers will get this $3,000 raise, I'll be able to go to graduate school and we can buy the house. That's the kind of, and she said that with tears in her eyes. Y'all, it's so easy. We are living in paradise. We've got all the institutions, and people from around the world that got no reason to say anything else, who invest in billions of dollars, are looking at us and saying, this is where we want to be. So that ought to tell us something. So what I say to you is that the future is just wide open for us as long as we don't mess it up. A few years ago, Christy Todd Whitman, who was the head of the EPA, you all remember, and the Bush administration, was in Columbia, and we were looking out the window at the Capital City Club, Carol. You can see the rubber, see the concrete, the broad, and the salute, and see the university, and all the green, and the football stadium, and all that. Just a beautiful sight. And I was telling her some of the things we're talking about now, about how we have all these wonderful assets, and she said, yes, you really do. I hope you don't mess it up. Well, that's the main thing we have to do, is not mess it up, is use our heads. We have to understand what we have. We have to understand that when mama ain't happy, ain't nobody happy. When that household is not happy, nobody's going to be happy. When we don't educate the children and don't have people in that household working, then we're not going to have business. Without business, the business of South Carolina is business. And if we don't have business, there's nothing that we can do that's going to take us to the top and keep us at the top. So I urge you to tell everybody you know that that's what we need to do. Support these efforts. As Jack Kemp used to say, politics is not a spectator sport. Well, neither is life. You got to get down out of the stands and come down on the playing field. Make it known what you think needs to be done. There's not a sharper group in the whole world than the people sitting right here in this room with more talent, more ability, and more opportunity. So my message is, do what we need to do to see that we continue the great growth, the great progress that we have, because there's so much more to come. And if we don't do it right now, then we won't be good ancestors. Now is our time to do this. And remember this final point, always tell the children to be proud of South Carolina, because it is the best place in the world to live, work, and raise a family. Thank you.
questions, if that's okay. Anybody got any questions?
I have, how about a little update on the infrastructure of the state? How we do with that?
We're getting there. As you know, we're working around the clock on roads. We saw a bunch of that work coming up there. I'm sometimes disappointed. I see trash on these roads. We got to do something about that. Around milepost 90 through something coming up. I almost called Christy Hall on the way. I'll call her later. She's a remarkable woman, by the way, the head of the highway Department of Transportation. But we have to have infrastructure. We have to have roads. We have to work on the bridges. I see that's physical infrastructure, and we do have the money to do that. But it takes time. But we've had a 10-year plan that we've been working on for some time, and you ought to be seeing results as we go forward. But the other infrastructure is, again, emphasizes that education infrastructure. Because out there, we're not going to make it. We need to be the best in the country at educating these young people. Because the culture that these businesses are looking for, and I say businesses, these leaders, they're looking for this culture that we have here, that is so powerful. And when you have people that are living in paradise, that have inherited a great Judeo-Christian tradition, and have inherited a great military tradition of standing up, and you put all those together, you get some people that can do some things, and that's what we've got. We need to understand that, and train them, teach them, educate them, so they can lead us on into prosperity in our old age. And by the way, that reminded me, I did go to the KISS concert, and we declared KISS Day in South Carolina. Anybody here ever been? Y'all know what KISS is? That band? They are something. Well, there's one thing on the radio, but there's something else in person. And they wear those big shoes. They got big platform shoes. They're about 6 inches tall. Now, Gene Simmons is 6'3" to begin with. 6'3", about 225 pounds. He puts on those shoes, and he's big. Here's the hope for everybody. That man is 70 years old. And Paul Stanley, who does most of the singing, is 68 and recently had a hip replacement. Now, y'all watch those fellas work, and it'll give you hope for the future. And also, when they go around the world, this is their last. I'd always been interested, but I've never really been a fan until I went to that. We stood right there by the stage for 2 hours, and you ain't seen nothing like that. I promise you. You could hear pretty well from where we were. But they're going around the world. They get on an 80 place tour, about 25 or 30 of them in this country. The rest are all over the world. And I just cannot imagine what some of these people in these other countries think when they see these giant men coming out with this enormous music, with the bombs going off and the lights and big construction arms coming out, carrying them out over the audience. They must think the United States of America has got to be the biggest, most powerful thing in the history of the universe, because there's quite something. But all these musicians that go around have that same impact. So we got to be nice to the musicians and use them. Yes, ma'am.
What's the latest in offshore drilling testing?
I'm 100% opposed to it, the testing and the drilling. We don't need it. All the mayors along the coast have come out against it. We have no place to put it. There's an infrastructure that would have to go on shore to accommodate all that. We're not set up like that. They are in the Gulf or Houston and those places. They've got an industrial coastline. We don't have it. We don't need it, and we don't want it. We got families living there. We've got tourism about, I think about a fifth of our product, state national gross product, or whatever you call it, is from tourism. People from all over. We don't want to mess that up, as well as the maritime industry and all that. And the Trump administration one time was dead on. I don't know what technically they've done. It's a good question, but they have suspended the movement forward, and we're hoping that, at least for South Carolina, that bills pending that would disallow or prohibit the construction of certain things on our coast that ought to keep it away from us. But if y'all are familiar with what happened down on on the coast with the, what was the name of the Horizon? That's quite a movie, by the way. They have one supposed to be very authentic, but they're still struggling down there. We can't afford to do that. So I think we're in good shape. I know that I can't speak for the other states that are in the same spot, but I don't think we're gonna have it here. I don't think we need it in order to be energy independent, but I don't think we want it because it would change everything on our coast. Yes, sir. Santee Cooper, my view is we must sell it in order to get out of the hole we're in. Santee Cooper, as you know, is a state agency. They have a board. The governor appoints the board, and they're confirmed by the Senate. But the governor can't just fire them because there are rules. You have to have certain calls, misfeasance, malfeasance, those sorts of things. A lot of people think a lot of that's been going on for a while. Whether it has or not, they're in a $7 billion hole. $7 billion. Those are bonds. I think about $4 billion is bonds. I think they've been paying the interest on them only, and about $3 billion in other debt. I see no way that they will continue to function without selling, or without the state selling them to a larger company that can take some sort of tax breaks in buying such a place, and also can absorb some of those costs. But the legislature passed a resolution that required the Department of Administration, which I appoint, to study and come up with alternatives, and they've done that. And Nextera was the company that had the winning bid or the best bid, but now Packlet, we had Duke, there are all kinds of people that were interested a year and a half ago, including some from China. A lot of folks were interested, but it was Nextera that ended up making the offer that the Department of Administration said was the best offer. The other alternative is to perform it, and a company had suggested, might have been Duke, it might have been Nextera, I don't remember who it was, said they'd come in and manage it. I don't see any way we can manage our way out of a $7 billion debt without increasing the cost of electricity dramatically. But my position is, I'm going to see that we do not put that burden on those customers who had nothing to do with those errors, and also we don't put it on the taxpayers. We have to find some way in the market. I think the sale is the only way to continue to have good quality, reliable electricity for expanding in that area, and without putting the burden on the customers. Does that answer that question?
Yes, sir. Governor, we want to thank you so much for speaking today. It's always great to hear your opinion on everything, and especially about great things in South Carolina. I've known about for years, but we'd like to hear all those things. Know that you're still in the right place. Place called paradise, right?
That's right.
Thank you.
Thank you.